Spring had arrived quietly in Holton. The air was fresh and crisp, and the scent of new life was in the wind. The days grew longer, and the warmth of the sun seemed to touch everything it found. Grandpa's condition continued to decline, as I knew it would, but there was something different now. There was peace in the house. A kind of stillness that didn't feel like surrender but acceptance. I had been helping at the local memory care unit, a small facility on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, just a few rooms filled with the elderly, their memories fractured and fading. But there was a quiet comfort in being there. I had come to understand something that I hadn't before. Memory wasn't just about facts, names, and dates. Memory was about feeling. It was about the touch of a hand, the sound of a voice, the look in someone's eyes when they saw you for who you truly were. Grandpa, though he didn't always remember me, always remembered the way I made him feel. And that was enough. One afternoon, as I wheeled him down the hall of the memory care unit, his eyes suddenly brightened. He looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, he spoke clearly. "You're doing good, Lainey," he said, his voice strong and clear. "Real good." I stopped in my tracks, my heart skipping a beat. He hadn't called me Lainey in so long. My name, my real name. The one he had given me when I was a child, the one he had whispered to me under the old elm tree at the park. The one he had called me when he had been proud, when he had been the man I remembered. I smiled, blinking away the tears that threatened to fall. "I'm just doing what's right," I whispered back, my voice thick with emotion. "I'm just making sure you're not forgotten." He nodded slowly, his face softening. "You did the one thing that mattered. You stayed." The words hung in the air, not just for him, but for me. The one thing that mattered. I stayed. I had chosen to stay when everyone else had walked away. And in doing so, I had found something I never expected, a sense of purpose, a sense of home, and a place where love wasn't about what you did, but about who you were. That evening, I sat with Grandpa on the porch, his hand resting in mine as the sky faded into night. June had gone to bed, and it was just the two of us, as it had been for so many days now. I looked at Grandpa, his eyes closed in peaceful slumber, his chest rising and falling in slow rhythm. I couldn't help but think about all the times I had been angry, all the times I had resented the way things had turned out. But now, none of that seemed to matter. What mattered was the time we had spent together, the time I had spent with him. What mattered was that I had given him something no one else had been able to, my presence, my love, my commitment. And for that, I would never regret a single moment. I stood up slowly, careful not to disturb him, and walked inside to get a glass of water. But as I stood there, in the quiet of June's house, I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't just the weight of the past. It was the knowledge that the chapter of my life that had begun in pain and defiance had finally come to an end. The final page had turned, and I was ready to close the book. That night, I sat by Grandpa's side as he slept, the photo of him and me beside the bed, the one we had taken at the bus station in Holton. I stared at it for a long time, the memory of that day, of that decision to walk away from everything, still fresh in my mind. But I didn't cry. Instead, I smiled. I smiled because I had chosen this life. I had chosen to stay, to fight for him, and in doing so, I had fought for myself. In the morning, we buried Grandpa under the old oak tree behind June's house. It was a small ceremony, just June, a few neighbors, and me. But it was enough. We had said goodbye, but we had also said thank you. Thank you for everything, for the memories, for the love, for the lessons he had taught me, lessons I would carry with me for the rest of my life. Afterward, I went back to Omaha, not for my parents, but for me. I rang the doorbell of the house I had grown up in. It looked smaller somehow, like a stage after the curtains had closed. My mother opened the door, her face pale, her eyes tired. "I heard," she said softly, her voice breaking. I nodded, stepping inside. My father stood in the hallway, arms crossed, but there was no anger in his eyes, just weariness. "He passed peacefully," I said quietly, "with people who loved him." My mother looked down, her hands twisting together in a nervous gesture. "We didn't mean to," she whispered. I met her gaze, my heart still heavy with the weight of everything that had happened. "You did," I said gently. "You meant to leave him at the airport. And you would have done the same to me if I hadn't followed your script. My father opened his mouth to speak, but I stopped him. You left him, I said, my voice firm but calm. And I won't forget that. I pulled out the envelope June had handed me, the one with Grandpa's revised will and a note that read, "To Elena, you were the only one who stayed. My love belongs with you. Keep remembering, Grandpa." I handed it to them without a word. They didn't say anything at first, just stared at the envelope in disbelief. My mother opened it slowly, and I could see the guilt in her eyes as she read the words written by Grandpa's hand. "I'm not here to fight," I said, turning to leave. "I'm here to let you know that I'm okay." And that he was too. I left the house and stepped out into the cold morning air, my coat wrapped tightly around me. It was time to move forward, to begin the next chapter of my life, one that was mine to write. I didn't need my parents' approval, and I didn't need their love. I had learned how to love myself, and that, in the end, was all I needed. When I woke up in the hospital, everything felt wrong. My body hurt in ways I didn't know it could. A sharp, burning ache in my side, a dull throb in my leg, a constant pressure in my chest. But the worst pain wasn't from the crash. It was from the silence. There were no missed calls, no worried texts, no messages lighting up my phone screen with frantic concern. Not even from my dad. It had been 3 days. 3 days since my car got T-boned by a delivery van that ran a red light. 3 days since the paramedics pulled me from the wreckage. 3 days of pain meds, whispered updates, fluorescent lights, and nothing from him. I stared at the ceiling. The white tiles felt colder than the sheets. I kept telling myself there had to be a reason. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he was out of town. Maybe my emergency contact wasn't updated. But I knew I had filled that form. I'd written Daniel Carter in my neatest print. My father, and beneath it, his number. The same one he'd had for years. Still, I waited. 1 day, 2. By the 3rd, I started imagining his voice in the hallway. I kept expecting the door to open, for his familiar voice to break the tension. But when it finally did, it wasn't relief I felt. He walked in like he'd just stepped out of a meeting. His shirt was neatly pressed, his tie crisp. Phone in hand, Bluetooth still in his ear. He didn't even take a full step into the room, just hovered near the doorway. "Hey," he said, like I'd just texted him from the kitchen. "You're awake." I blinked at him. "Yeah, since Wednesday." He didn't flinch, just gave a small nod, scanned the machines around me like he was looking for a price tag. There was a pause. A long one. I waited for him to say something, anything that sounded like concern. Instead, he sighed, stepped in finally, and said, "Listen, do you still have that savings account? The one Mom left you after the divorce? Your sister's in a bit of trouble." The world didn't stop, not technically, but I felt it shift. Something inside me, something that had survived the impact, cracked clean in two. I wasn't surprised. That's what broke me. I wasn't surprised. "Are you serious right now?" I said. My voice was raspy from the oxygen tube, but my anger pushed it out. "I could have died." "But you didn't," he said calmly. "And thank God." "Look, I know this isn't ideal timing, but Ellie." "No," I snapped. "You don't get to talk about timing. Where the hell were you for 3 days?" He blinked like I'd asked him the square root of grief. "I was handling things." "Handling what?" He hesitated, then said it, as casually as if he were asking for a parking pass. "Your sister's loan defaulted. If we don't pay by next week, she loses everything. Her apartment, the boutique. She's spiraling. And you have the means to help." I could feel the heart monitor ticking faster. A steady, traitorous beep, beep, beep that gave away my rising fury. "You're standing here while I have 2 broken ribs and a fractured hip asking me for money? I'm asking you to help your family." "No," I said. "You're asking me to disappear again. To sacrifice like always. So Ellie can keep pretending she's invincible." His expression shifted then, not guilt, just impatience. "This isn't about favoritism," he said. "It's about doing what's right." My laugh came out dry and hoarse. "You don't even know what hospital room I was in until this morning. And now you're here, clipboard in hand, like it's a bank visit. Silence. Thick. Bitter. He didn't step forward. Didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't touch my hand. Just stood there, waiting, as if my pain was just a minor inconvenience to the real crisis. Ellie's going to lose everything, he said. One last try. And what did I lose? I whispered. What about me? He opened his mouth, closed it, then said, if you won't help, don't expect me to keep covering for you. That was the moment it all cleared. Like the windshield after a storm. He never came for me. Not during the divorce. Not after Mom died. Not when I stayed up nights helping Ellie write her first business plan. Not when I missed my college orientation to drive her to court. I was never the one worth saving. Just the one worth using. He left without another word. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't ask him to stay. The walls seemed to close in on me as I rushed toward the reception desk. The sounds of heart monitors and distant cries echo in my ears. I clutch my ribs, wincing from the pain of the accident, but I can't stop. I need to find out what happened to my sister. Receptionist, calmly, you need to sit down, sir. You're injured yourself. Me, panicked. Where is she? My sister. They brought her in with me. A nurse steps in, holding a clipboard. Nurse, she's in ICU. Still unconscious. We're doing everything we can. Me, please, please let me see her. Nurse, softly, only for a moment. INT. ICU room a moments later. Machines beep rhythmically. My sister lies still, pale, with an oxygen mask. I approach, trembling. Me, whispers. Hey, it's me. I'm here. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. Suddenly, footsteps. My father enters the room. Father, gruffly, you again. Always the dramatic one. Me, turning. What are you doing here? Father, smirks. I came to check on my daughter. Is that a crime? Me, you didn't come for her. You never do. Father, shrugs. She needs surgery. Money. I thought maybe you'd be useful for once. I clench my jaw, fury bubbling beneath my skin. Me? I was in a car crash because I was rushing to get home after working overtime. For her, you're the one who left us drowning in bills. Father, and yet here I am, trying to fix things. Me, by asking me for money? Again? Father, this is life, son. Either pay or walk away. Me, snarling. You're not her savior. You're her sickness. My father steps closer, lowering his voice. Father, watch your mouth. I may be a lot of things, but I still made you. Me, and I'll spend the rest of my life unmaking the pain you caused. He glares, then turns and walks out without a word. INT, hospital lobby later. I sit on a bench, exhausted and broken. My phone buzzes, a message from my best friend. We set up a fundraiser. It's going viral. People are donating. She's going to be okay. I blink away tears, hope replacing the anger. INT. ICU room, and next morning, I'm back at her bedside, holding her hand. Me, softly, you're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. And we don't need him. Her fingers twitch slightly. I gasp. Me, nods. That's right. Come back to me. Fade out.